This may be one of the most important victories we have seen so far in the 2020 cycle. The victory of Jeff Van Drew. For those that aren't familiar, Van Drew was a Democrat elected in 2018 in New Jersey's 2nd District, South Jersey. Well, at some point, because of the impeachment process, he decided he would switch to becoming a Republican. He was told that if he didn't support the impeachment of Donald Trump, the Democrats would actually stop him from winning re-election. So he said, okay. He joined the Republican Party. Many people were convinced this was the end for Jeff Van Drew and he would not be able to win as a Republican. Why would the district vote for a moderate Republican when they can get an actual Republican? If a Democrat's going to win, a Democrat's going to win, right? Well, apparently no. Jeff Van Drew wins. From Fox News. Republican incumbent Jeff Van Drew has won re-election in New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District. In a tight race against Democratic challenger Amy Kennedy, Van Drew defeated his opponent by almost 15,400 votes. According to the Fox News decision desk, Van Drew clinched 159,376 votes to Kennedy's 144,005, or 51% to 46% respectively. 80% of the votes have been reported. The vote totals do not include provisional ballots, but Van Drew was enough in the lead that the AP called the race for him as well. Van Drew, a retired dentist, declared victory in Tuesday at a campaign gathering in Sea Isle City, the press of Atlantic City reported. Kennedy, a former school teacher and wife of former Rhode Island Congressman Patrick Kennedy, had to leave the campaign trail on Monday to self-quarantine because she had been in close proximity to someone who tested positive for COVID. Her loss marks the end of the Kennedy political dynasty's 60-year run in Congress. Interesting. According to Town and Country magazine, we deserve a leader who will fight for better paying jobs, for the protections our workers need, for relief for small businesses, and better health care, Kennedy said Tuesday in the Facebook Live broadcast, hours after the polls closed. I'm hopeful that South Jersey will get the representation it deserves. Thank you all, and we move on. The race gained national attention after Van Drew's widely publicized defection from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party in December 2019, when he pledged his undying support to President Trump during a meeting at the White House. I just want to say, I find it very odd. Republicans make gains in the House. They make gains. They hold their own in the Senate, and they lose the presidency. Makes sense, maybe, if people voted against Donald Trump and didn't vote for anything else, or if many Republicans just didn't vote, didn't vote for president. It's possible that Republicans went in and they said Jeff Van Drew and Republican senator, and I'm not voting for Donald Trump, and thus Donald Trump lost. However, I'm not convinced. I believe our country is too tribal, and thus when I saw the glitch in Michigan, 47 counties using the software, it sounds like something just isn't right. Now, I'll keep this one to Jeff Van Drew, but we'll get to that in a second. The move, which earned him the nickname Switcheroo Van Drew, came after Van Drew and two other lawmakers split with his former party on impeaching President Trump. Before Van Drew's first win as a Democrat in 2018, Republicans had held the congressional seat for more than 2 decades. The Garden State 2nd Congressional District was a bright spot for President Trump in 2016, where he won by more than 10,000 votes. This is big news, but I wonder if we might actually see another path for a Republican victory in the presidency. The reason why I think, I want to show you these stories. First, Jeff Van Drew shows us that people reject what the Democrats have become, and they reject the impeachment of Donald Trump. They voted for a moderate in 2018. He switched to Republican. They voted him in again. There's a possible path to a Trump victory, one that I personally do not agree with, that is being brought up. The Daily Mail reports, Republican leader of Pennsylvania's state Senate slaps down demand from Don Jr. to ignore voters and appoint their own pro-Trump electors to the Electoral College. It wasn't so much a demand from Trump Jr., more so a retweet and a demand from Mark Levin. They say, Pennsylvania's Senate Majority Leader Jake Corman slapped down a call echoed by Donald Trump Jr. that Republican state legislatures appoint pro-Trump electors to the Electoral College to override the results of the 2020 presidential election. According to WHYY, Philadelphia and Wilmington's NPR affiliate, Corman's spokesperson said the GOP-controlled state legislature would not move to appoint partisan electors, despite President Donald Trump voicing unfounded concerns about voting in Philadelphia, where votes had given Democrat Joe Biden the lead Friday morning. On Thursday, Trump Jr. retweeted conservative talk show host Mark Levin's demand, which was written in all caps because that apparently lets people know that you're yelling or you're serious, to put fellow Republicans on the Electoral College, which would then sway the count towards Trump. Here's what he said. Reminder to the Republican state legislatures. You have the final say over the choosing of electors, not any board of elections, secretary of state, governor, or even court. You have the final say. Article 2 of the federal Constitution. So get ready to do your constitutional duty. My response to this is no. Absolutely not. We would never see the end of it. There would be no swing states. It would be chaos. But I will say, I do like the idea, as I mentioned earlier on, of the states having the local elections having more power in determining the federal authority. Too many people ignore who their state legislature is. And perhaps this may be the main issue. Why don't people in Philadelphia care? Some probably do. Most probably don't. They then vote for the federal elections where they feel like it matters most, and they ignore the actual impact the local legislation will have on their lives. In which case, maybe we need some kind of return to state authority in some capacity. So that way they do hold more power. They do. Mark Levin is correct. The state can absolutely say, no, we're the state. We choose the electors. They held an election to determine what the people wanted. They don't have to. I think they should. But let's read more. The tweet was slapped with a Twitter warning label that said, some or all of the content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election. That's insane because he's correct. Whether or not you agree with him is different. Trump Jr. sent out a number of tweets Friday expressing dismay that his father was losing in four key swing states, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. Does anyone really believe that Joe Biden shattered Obama's historic 2008 numbers? Does anyone really believe that he did that mostly in big cities? Trump Jr. wrote, come on, man. Trends nationally show that Democrats tend to live in more urban environments while Republican voters in rural, smaller counties. Biden has been able to catch up with Trump's in Pennsylvania and Georgia because the outstanding votes were from cities like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and Savannah. For months, Trump also warned his supporters against using mail-in ballots, suggesting they would be ripe for fraud. That, however, led to most of his supporters' ballots being counted on or directly after Election Day, followed by mail-in ballots getting a count. Those mail-in ballots, even in Republican counties, have still favored Biden, which is strange, to say the least. I mean, seriously. Speaking to Fox News Channel Friday morning about the state of play in Pennsylvania, Corman did not echo allegations of widespread fraud like the president and his son. He complained about poll watchers being kept too far away in Philadelphia and suggested there could be an interesting recount there. I don't have evidence of any misdoing. Let me just stop. Trump needs to stop saying fraud. The issue is not fraud. It's failure. Now, if you have evidence of fraud, please bring it forward. What we saw in Michigan was a computer glitch. That is impropriety and error. It could be fraud. We don't have evidence. And it's unlikely you're going to be able to dig up where these votes came from because the chain of custody has been broken. So fraud will be very difficult to prove. What you can, however, prove is errors. Because of the glitch, we now have hard evidence that an error has occurred in a very serious election. Michigan uses 47 counties in Michigan use that software, and it needs to be checked. I do not believe the appropriate response would be Republican legislatures sending in their own electors. We heard that Democrats may try and do that. I don't think we should do that now. I don't know what's going to happen. I think things are going crazy. I really do. Check this out. Utah AG Reyes claims compromised election process and will support Trump. He tweeted, despite months of predictions about a blue wave, GOP kept the Senate and expanded seats in the House. Biden and his allies know POTUS will win if only verified legal votes are counted. We are making sure that happens, but looks like courts may have to decide that. On personal leave time to help prepare and support litigation in several states dealing with compromised election process. My friends, we are far from over. The process will continue. Trump has not lost, and there's very serious claims of impropriety and fraud, for sure. No one's going to give this up. But I tell you, I'm not worried about what happens under a Trump presidency. I'm not worried about lists. I'm not worried about the far left getting violent because Trump will do something about it. Right now, the Democrats are winning and the far left is still rioting. Why? Why? The Democrats aren't going to do anything about it. If Joe Biden does end up winning, the riots will keep happening. I tell you this, Jeff Van Drew was a powerful statement, one of the most important, that regular people in this country are not standing for the far left. We saw the Democrats freak out about it. Maybe this all ends with Biden being the president and the Senate being Republican, Republicans gaining the House. Maybe Nancy Pelosi is ousted as speaker. Or maybe Donald Trump files these legal challenges and ends up winning. Man, I just don't know, but I'll leave it there. Next segment is going to be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all next time.